Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Over 50 Starting Over. I am Barry Edwards.
And I'm Merle Garrison.
And this is May 14th, Friday, 2021. What were you going to say, Merle?
I was going to say, did you see how I said my name differently that time?
You did. You change it up a little bit. I like that all the time. I do. I like to see what you're going to do there. Oh, man, a lot of good news going on right now. As of last night, no more mandatory masks.
Yeah, I heard all about that.
Seems a little fishy to me, but I'm quite happy about it. Now, DeWine announced a few days ago that we were going to do away with it by something like the first week of June. And, Biden beat him to the punch, which is amazing.
Yeah, he's fast.
Yeah, but in other news, so Cedar Point just opened. And now the mask thing is voluntary. So it's assumed if you're not wearing one that you got the vaccine, the honor system, which is how it should be. We're adults here. And I agree. Dude, East 55th Street Marina just opened up.
Oh, your favorite. Yes. Oh, life is
good.
Good
week.
Back again. Yeah,
it's a beautiful day.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. So everything feels normal now.
Well, it's starting to feel that way. It's almost like, gosh, the sun's coming up. It feels like the storm is clearing here and everything. I guess we'll talk a little bit later about why that seems suspicious and funny that it happened with the timing and everything. Yeah. Because, it's funny. We start out, hey, good news. And there's so much other news out there that's like, what is going on here? So, we live in such an interesting time, but I'm so glad that this is starting to go away. The mask thing, holy cow. I can't believe that we've gotten used to this the way we have. It's almost like you leave the house and you're just like, it's like a lot of times I'll leave without my keys, oh man, how stupid am I? It's just like that with a mask now.
I've gotten away from it because things have gotten a little bit looser, and I got to the point where it was like in the beginning, I forget it all the time now.
Right.
Go to pull that door open on a store. Oh man, and I think even now, so this was announced last night, but now, okay, since DeWine said what he did, that it's not going to take place until the first week of June, then we must go by that, correct?
This is the weird part is when the CDC says something, it seems like sometimes we got to do it immediately and other times not. I don't really understand, to be honest with you. I don't know, but I think it's more important that we follow state and local guidelines. I think that's really what's the most important thing here.
But you're right. Things got confused because we got to a point where we weren't really following our constitutional principles, that we were relying on the federal government to tell us what our rules and regulations were. And that's the slippery slope that happens in an emergency situation.
That's exactly right. As Rahm Emanuel said, never let a good crisis go to waste. And we've seen that. And what does that mean? It usually means a power grab for your freedoms. And we've experienced that. We're going to see how this all goes. It's interesting how they're always, anytime they relax some of the guidelines, they're always quick to tell you how quickly they can turn those guidelines back on again. So, it is what it is, right? Yeah. But happy Friday. That's a happy note to start on. Right. Yeah, exactly. And so are you going to are you riding your bike down to the 55th Street Marina tonight?
That's a good question. I haven't decided yet. Fridays are pretty busy up until about 3 for me. It's frantic. So I haven't decided yet. One thing I would say is that I'll check which way the wind's blowing before I do. Because if it's coming off the lake, it'll be a 15-degree swing in temperature.
Ooh, that's a serious one. That's how it is out here, big time.
Is that right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. With the ocean down, because the ocean's 12 miles down my road, and you get like here on a hot day, like it'll be 100 here. You get down there, it's 75, 25-degree difference, sometimes 30.
So you got to pack a duffel bag with all your
clothes. You do. You're leaving the house, you're sweating, and you have a jacket with you. And people are like, what? But they get it because, we live here. But any here, it's like you got to be ready for any kind of weather.
That's funny you say that. Southern California, people don't think that, but because you live in the valley, there's microclimates there that I didn't know about. And so when we came to visit you, I'm on the phone going, what is up? I landed in San Francisco. Lisa and I landed in San Francisco. It's really cold. We go to it's
Santa Clarita.
Nah, it starts with a V, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But then it was really warm. It was like low 70s and beautiful. Then we went another one south, and it was cold again. And it was different all the way down there. And so I always thought of Southern California, and I know San Francisco is not very Southern, but
no, it's
right. But I've always thought, 72 and sunny all the time, and it's everywhere. And then you go to the Valley. Oh, it could be 110 here. You tell me what?
Yeah. It's so crazy because they'll say, it's 75 in Los Angeles. Sure, at the Los Angeles airport it is, but you come up here into the Valley and it's like, I'm telling you, sometimes it's like, that the what is the magnifying thing? The thing we used to burn ants with. I feel like I'm the ant now.
Well, isn't it truly that because you're snuggled in the mountains?
It is.
Yeah, you get on the other side of the mountains, and
it's so interesting. You can see the climate trying to come over the mountain from the ocean because it'll be cloudy over there, and you'll see clouds kind of pouring over the mountain. That's the cooler air trying to come up over into the valley. And it's really the way that the whole land is structured here. It's really it's a geological extravaganza out here. You get everything out here, and it makes for beautiful living. It's just beautiful out here.
Oh, which it certainly is. If only culturally, it just seems like that is not going to be fixed in your lifetime, I don't think.
Well,
hey, what's going on?
It's a train wreck. That's what it is. It's a train wreck.
I know we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Where is everything? When you see these wrecks or a plane wreck and you're like, what the heck is that I'm looking at? This is kind of like what California has become.
Yeah. I'm just curious. I want to share an article from AARP about that is assisting people with exploring and developing their business ideas. So it's really handy. Nice. Great for our upfront. But I'm just curious, what is going on with Newsom's recall? The state of that?
Oh, well, that's on full go right now. We have so with the recall, any number of people can run against the governor. That's coming up, I believe, September. So people are starting to come out with their campaign. The one that I mentioned this last week, but the one that's really the most front and center that we're seeing is Caitlyn Jenner. Yeah. And I got to say, I love I love what he's saying. And I love what she's saying. It's so hard. I'm sorry. It's like a friend that you've known all your life. And then they change their name.
So let's make that point.
Call their own name.
There's nothing derogatory meant there at all. It's just a habit.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So Caitlyn Jenner is on fire as far as everything that's going on. And of course, the attacks are coming in. And the attacks are really pretty lame.
It's gotta be bizarre.
Lame. Yeah, what's her name? Sarah Silverstein. Not somebody that's very
Silverman, the comedian with the podcast. I saw.
She's mean. I mean, she's just a mean person
and not very well informed. It doesn't.
No, it was interesting how she's an expert on being a trans woman and telling and athletics. And this is Caitlyn Jenner. I mean, how can you get any more trans woman and athlete
authority?
This person,
this woman.
Well, he was a guy when he won the Olympic gold medal. So
let's face it, it's a different.
Who could have that kind of dichotomy in their life and not be an expert on that? He's like the authority. She's like the authority on this, right?
And it also reminds me of like Chelsea Handler trying to tell black people how they should vote and how they should behave. The white woman.
Right.
The hypocrisy runs deep, but they virtue signal so much that they can't be attacked.
Right. To your point from last week, that's their insurance policy. I see that. I totally see that.
I think it's
like
crumbling.
It's like credits. I
think it's starting to crumble. Mhm.
Boy, I hope you're right about
I
that.
do hope I'm right too. But like we always talk about how in America, the pendulum has to swing so far.
Yeah.
Could it swing any further left in the
Boy,
total ridiculous zone?
I want to say I hope not. I haven't seen anything like this.
And I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I was reading somewhere, maybe it was a podcast I was listening to. I think maybe it was, but someone was talking about the left is really super far right. Because they are about dividing and conquering via race, and virtually every kind of authoritarian government has started out doing that, aside from Mussolini in Italy. Seems to be the only one that didn't use race in that regard. But the only thing they're missing right now is their figurehead. That is to be the end all be all of the takeover. But yeah, there was a lot of different ways that they were saying that for everything that they're accusing the right of, they're further right than that.
Yeah. So it's an interesting conversation, because as I take a look at the political spectrum and how the right has been classified as, they say Nazis and the KKK are far right. That's a misnomer. It's just not true. It's just that doesn't come on the right side. If you take a look at the dynamics of the Nazi Party, for instance, they're far left. Nazism and communism, very little difference. That
was the point that was being made, is that you use Marxism. Apparently, we've never really truly seen a true Marxist society.
We haven't.
Great talking
in
points.
The Bolshevik realm.
And it's basically this giant stone in the middle of the river that you just jump on so you get to the other side of authoritarianism. So that they use it as their platform because it sounds like all, utopia, until you put it in the practice and you immediately go into authoritarianism.
That's the fun part about Marxism, right? It's like, it's really, really fair for everybody. Go ahead, play my game, except for the person. There is a person that owns the game and he gets all the money.
Yeah,
and
there you go.
All the monopoly money, and we're seeing that played out in full color. The Marxists that they call themselves Marxists. So we saw Patrice Cullors, we talked about this. She's acting just like one of those elitist Marxists. I mean, it's funny, the whole movement in the Soviet Union before the movement, we just had May Day, which celebrates that. All of those people, as Karl Marx had said, these were supposed to be the proletariats, the working class rising up and taking over. But no, these were the intellectuals. These were the highly educated college graduate people with money. They're the ones that caused the movement in the Soviet Union. Lenin was very well off, and so were all the people around him. And so it didn't happen the way Karl Marx thought it would happen. And look what happened. Look how it's being brought to us today by the elites, by the people with all the money. Why, isn't that interesting? Why would you, if you were rich, why would you be interested in Marxism?
And look where Patrice Cullors just moves to. I'm telling you, they're trying to make California a liberal elite paradise.
That is well said. And you can see it. So. They all live on the hills here.
Yeah. Okay. So let's back up a little bit. We'll get back into that. Because I think this is. Yeah. I think this is very important information to share, because one thing that we often talk about here is trying to find at this point in our lives, if you're not happy with what you're doing, find your path to doing what you always wanted to do and be happy. We don't, we're on the back nine here. Maybe more than that.
Yeah. You're playing 18 holes. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is it.
But you're armed with expertise, maybe a little bit of capital, but a whole lot of knowledge and experience. This is the time that you should be setting yourself up. And even if you have to downsize in order to do this, like, hey, if you've been making your 6 figures and you don't think that you can make it with your personal endeavor, but boy, you've, put away, accumulated a lot of assets. And Lisa and I talk about this too. It's a matter of time before we downsize. We got this, huge place here, and it's a money suck in many ways. And it's also a lot of upkeep. So how long are we going to do that?
Right.
Sooner or later, we're going to downsize a bit. We could be happier with that, more manageable. Our lives would be more manageable. We need much less money to be comfortable. And And who knows, you may be able to make more money doing your job of passion anyway. You don't know. I mean, it depends on what it is. It depends on where you live. It depends on a lot of different factors.
Yeah.
And it depends on how motivated you are, organized, and things like that. But if you are in a situation where you've always wanted to go out on your own, you can do this better than your boss. You have all of this expertise, and it's just been a matter of needing some resources. There's a lot of resources out there. And I'm going to back up for a second because I've been working on, I'm the producer of that podcast, Biz Chat Ohio.
Yeah.
And I'm learning each week, and we're only on our second podcast, but we've had 2 guests now. But the amount of resources that are out there available for entrepreneurs, I don't want to keep it Ohio centric, but I'm just saying. So these kind of SBDCs, small business development centers, are available everywhere. So that's a start. But what I wanted to say is AARP has a lot of resources in and of itself. So wanted to share this article with you that I will have in the notes. And it says, are you ready to explore? You know what? I'm going to share the screen on this.
Oh, okay.
And I cannot tell if that's the right one. I think it.
They changed up a little bit here on Zoom.
You think?
Yeah. Maybe.
Let me see if. Yeah,
I have it on the split screen, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it does by default. All right. Do you see it? Are you ready to? Okay, awesome. All right. So are you looking for additional support to prepare to launch your own business? The AARP Foundation has collaborated with Bridge for Billions to host check this out, a free 3.5-month digital incubation program for aspiring entrepreneurs. So I'm just going to skip to how it works. Entrepreneurs, yeah, it's free, man. 3.5 months. Match with a mentor. This means everything here, folks, because if you've been on the cusp of wanting to make the leap, the differentiator is having a mentor that has your back and gives you guidance. So that supports the entrepreneur. That's you throughout the program. Okay, so you and your mentors will work through online modules to create a valid visual business plan. This is fantastic. So you and your mentors will meet weekly for 1 to 1.5 hours for the duration of the program, so that that gives you both accountability and continuous correcting of your course. Very powerful stuff. Once again, this is free. Okay, you attend a bi-weekly online sessions hosted by Bridge for Billions. The sessions will cover topics such as marketing, legal prototyping, crowdfunding, etc. Entrepreneurs will attend 2 visual investment readiness workshops as they prepare to pitch their business ideas for funding, if applicable. For funding, folks.
Wow.
Okay. So you got the one-on-one support with your mentor, community for entrepreneurs and mentor, and a validation visual business plan to pitch for funded as needed. So that's all I'm going to go into right there. I have the full information on this with the link right in our show notes. So if you go to over50startingover.com, you can find it there and sign up for our weekly email list. I don't spam anybody. This is simply to give you your links and all of our information dropped right in your email box as it happens. That's pretty cool stuff, Merle. I think
that is really
powerful.
Cool stuff. I mean, the resources that they're investing with a mentor and everything that they're doing on a weekly basis. I don't know how they do that, but that's outstanding.
That's government grant stuff, I'm sure, that they get. It's nonprofit, I'm sure.
Take advantage.
That's
advantage. All I gotta say.
Absolutely. This could be the thing that gets you to make that final leap, the final step, and be happier than ever.
Yeah.
And that's the point. You can't go into this maturely and without a degree of education and feel good about it. So when you create a valid business plan and have the mentorship behind your back, you can go in with a degree of confidence.
Big time. I mean,
that is
really great. And what a great thing for Over 50 starting over. I mean, as you said, if you're not doing the thing you're passionate about, you have people out there that can help you with this transition. You're not alone. You don't have to figure it out all by yourself. And why take that risk financially when you have a multitude of counselors right available to you? That's pretty,
to not
pretty good
plan
stuff.
is to plan to fail. So they help you with your plan. Experts.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, let's move on. Hey, I wanted to do something just fun. I've been wanting to do this for a while now. I wanted to ask you, short conversation of, because Lisa and I had this a while back ago, the lottery was at like $1 billion. And after you clear taxes and all that, you maybe have a mere 500 million left for you. What would you do if you won 500 million in the lottery? How would you plan the rest of your life? Because most people burn out. They really do. Yeah.
I have not thought a lot about this. It's funny. I was looking at the show notes today, and I saw that in there, and I thought, I see this in here all the time, and we never talk about this. And today is the day, and I should have thought about it a little more before. but you know, the reason I don't think about it is I never play the lottery. I think I've played it as many times as I've played it in my life. I could count on both hands. But what would I do? The first thing I would do with 500 million is sorry, boss, I'm sure he's watching, I would quit that day.
Sure.
I would call him up, and I'd probably, I really love the guy I work for. I would probably send him and his wife off on a vacation. But outside of that, I would take my time to figure out exactly what I want to do. The big thing I would like to do, Anne Marie and I would love to travel the world and not have that. You know how it is when you're traveling, Barry, and it's hard to be on vacation and disconnect from everything you have going on. And then when you're on vacation, it dawns on you that you have to come back, and oh my gosh, there's an avalanche of things that I'm going to have to catch up. I want to be able to go on a vacation where I don't have to worry about that. You know what I mean?
I gotta say, you could go on that vacation, that long extended vacation, but if you won $500 million, you're going to find out that you have more friends and family than you ever remember having.
Yeah. That's the thing. Is the number one thing I would do is stay anonymous. If it's possible at all, stay I wouldn't tell anybody what happened. I wouldn't be trying to
everybody would know.
I'm sure I would disconnect my phone. That's the first thing I would do, is I would disconnect my phone.
Change your number.
Maybe get in the witness protection program or something. But isn't it amazing how they all burn their money? What would you do? How would you do?
Well, this? Lisa and I talked a lot about it because, like I said, and we maybe spend $5 a year on the lottery. Like when it gets really big, we'll go and buy $5 to $10 worth of tickets every other year, you know? And so that just happened. And I was driving around thinking about it. And then I came back home and I had this long, fun conversation with Lisa about it. And I said, well, I know what I'd want to do. First of all, I would divide up that money down the middle, give you your 250 million after taxes. I'd keep my 250 million. But what that reminds, never mind. That's a political thing. I'll get back to that. But anyways, I'd keep mine because I don't want to argue about what to do with it. But what I would like to do, maybe we could agree on jointly, I would like about 3 different houses throughout the country, or maybe one in Mexico or something, but we could agree on where, not gigantic estates that suck up a ton of money, because I don't want to do that. And we agreed on that. And Lisa would be 100% in charge of decorating and everything, because she's
very wise,
so good at it. Yes. Oh my God. So she'd be totally in control of that. What I would like to do with mine, because I always believe this, of course I would travel a lot, and it's at the beginning, but then I would need to get productive. I think when people stop being productive, they start dying or start self-indulging too much. There's no good becomes of it. You need to be productive.
Right. You do.
So I would, and first of all, you got to think about the family members or friends even that you want to help out that isn't like giving welfare checks to people where it becomes harmful, that something trickles in, maybe it's a merit-based type of thing, that has to be figured out.
Yeah.
And then what I would like to do with certain charitable programs, of course, stuff with dogs, animal rescues, animal rights groups, I would try to represent maybe 4, 5, 6 of these and set up trusts that are, again, a meritocracy. If they do well and these trusts are put into good investments, they can thrive and grow off of the investment return. So they're not burning through that either. So I'd be sitting on these boards. That's what I'd be doing with a good part of my productive time. Hopefully that only takes up about 20 hours a week. See, I thought that all through, but I would like to
really did. Yeah.
And then with the rest of it, I would like to enjoy myself.
That's really cool. I like your idea there. That sounds really cool.
Yeah. So I just want
I feel like my answer was really dumb compared
because you didn't give it any thought. If you really see, the thing is, if you hear the horror stories of what people do to themselves when they win the lottery and how they flame out, I mean, that's you got to think about that.
Yeah, well, no kidding. I guess this is one of the reasons why I don't play the lottery is that it just seems like when people come into a huge amount of money, you would think happiness would be the product, but boy, the stories I've heard, it doesn't seem like that's the case for these people, at least for most of them.
And how many times have you heard? I've heard this many times. Ha ha ha! My God, I can't believe with all the fame and fortune that person had, they still killed themselves.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's such an ill way to perceive life. That fame and fortune is going to make you the happiest person on the planet. That could bring out every insecurity you ever had.
Well, and we see it all the time happen, right? I mean, this is it's a classic case. I mean, life is, there's so much more to life than that. And
I could say that
you're living that way, you're probably missing out.
Go ahead. Because wealth could allow you to be happier if you understand the importance of things, because it could take away the stress of being broke, of poverty, for sure, obviously. But if you don't realize what it is, what wealth is, it could then allow you to just overindulge into the things that are masking your insecurities in the illnesses in your head, mental illnesses.
Right.
So if you can use a certain amount of freedom that comes from obtaining money, then you can use it for therapy and doing good. That's why I said about the lottery thing. I thought about that. And you need to spend X amount of time on things that are positively productive in order to keep your head about you.
You know, it's interesting when we look at this. I think we even brought up this. There's a scripture that's burning in my head right now, which is Jesus saying that the poor you'll have with you always. And, it's a curious statement because here's Jesus. Well, he doesn't want that, of course. But when you really look at what is poverty, is it really a lack of money? And sure, you could categorize it as that, but really poverty from from how God sees it, is that it's a state of there's a mental state. There's a lack of wisdom there. Now that doesn't mean that poverty is a lack of wisdom. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you're in poverty, that through wisdom, wealth can be created, especially here in this country. So what we see is that adding money to the situation of poverty doesn't necessarily equal a wealthy person.
Right.
Wealth and wisdom go together. And so wealth isn't just you can have no money and be wealthy because of your state of mind, because your mind can create wealth. Wisdom can create wealth. It's interesting how you see these billionaires who lose everything. And then a few years later, they're a billionaire again. How did that happen?
It's a state of mind.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And so, and we see it all the time. And so this is why when we take a look at these stimulus packages that are out there, we add money to the situation. Well, look at how that's backfired on us, is that now we have runaway inflation. It's not making anybody rich. We have a situation now where we got jobs out there that can't be filled because people are like, well, I'm making more money just staying home, and it's killing our economy. So, this is a wisdom and wealth. They go together. Go ahead, Ben.
I just saw this like last night on a YouTube video, and I can't remember a couple of the players in it, but it was a video. It was just like, oh, this is so dumb. Brian Williams, you remember him?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He got
conflator.
Yes. He was interviewing someone on the left, and I don't remember who it was, but they were talking about, what's his name? The rich Republican that came in late and spent $500 million on that. Yeah.
Rich Republican. Which one?
Oh, yeah.
$500 million on what?
But on ads to run. So he had his own money, and he blew against Trump. So he blew $500 million on advertising to run. And this lady, forget somebody famous, I think it might have been Sarah Silverman that you were talking about, if I said her name right. It might have been her, but they had this conversation that they could have given with $500 million, everyone in the country of 330 million people, $1 million each, and made a utopia. They had this serious conversation, not realizing that $500 million is 500 people that get $1 million.
I remember that. I remember thinking,
that's the first I heard of it.
I guess you don't have to graduate from college in order to be on the
that's
news.
AOC math, economics.
Right. Just throw another 10 trillion on it.
Yeah, really.
It'll be fine.
All right. So obviously that's a perfect segue into current events. Where do you want to go to with that?
Well, we saw last week, I guess where we last left off was that the jobs report came out last week, which was way off. We were supposed to have the prediction was about 1 million jobs that was supposed to happen. It came in at about 250,000. We found out also that day that unemployment was up to 6.3. They were predicting it to be around 5.7. Then later on in the week, we've got the CPI index for the year went up 4.2%. So what does that mean? That means that things are 4.2% more. You're spending 4.2% more on your cost of living than you were last year. It's one of the largest increases since the Great Recession, which was about a decade ago. And so these are pretty staggering numbers. April was the biggest month-over-month increase on the CPI, going back over a decade. And all kinds of things have happened as a result. We've got, since then, our gas prices have soared. We've had a cyber attack against one of our major pipelines.
Let's slow down there.
Colonial Pipeline. We've got a lot of things that are going on. All at, I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that an avalanche of things have happened ever since last week, including Israel on fire between Hamas and Israel. And so one of our closest allies is in the midst of a war right now, and we've got the border blowing up, and we've got, hey, you can take your mask off. So I think these things are all go together.
I certainly want to talk about the
Colonial Pipeline,
the cyber attack. But I also want to ask you quickly, and I've looked this up before, watched some YouTube videos on the history between Israel and the Palestinians. And it made sense to me at the time, but I don't know. I can't retain it. Why can these two groups, maybe it's just the scarcity of the land that they're on, but why can they not learn to get along in peace?
They're never going to get along. It's just you're never going to be able to make that happen. There is a spiritual thing that's happening there. It's biblical. It really goes back to early in the Bible, where you have the two nations that are in represented by by two brothers, and they're warring against each other right from the very beginning. And one becomes the Arab nation, the other one the Jewish nation, and they've been warring against each other ever since. there's a spiritual condition there, and the deal is over that small piece of land that is the size of New Jersey, maybe a little bit bigger than Delaware. It's the center of the world. Everything turns on what happens there. And it's very interesting if you take a look at just Israel, the location itself. It is the crossroads of the world when you have the Mediterranean, which is the entrance to all of Europe and the Middle East. You've got the Suez Canal there where you're coming up. It's everything meets there. It's an extremely strategic location. If you were in a battle, that would be the area where you would want to secure in order to take everything. And so this is what's going on. So we'll constantly see efforts to wage peace in that area that will only be temporary, and they'll fall apart again. According to my Bible, the only way that lasting peace is going to happen there is for Jesus to come back and make that happen. And we've seen it throughout the world history. There's never been peace there. Never been long-lasting, sustainable peace. It's really something to see. And when you see what's happening there, it's normally there is a long history attached to it.
And as things go these days, I remember seeing yesterday that if I say her name right, Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot, or Gadot, I don't know how you say her name, but she sent out a tweet, and I'm paraphrasing, but she's Israeli, she's Jewish. And she said something to the effect of, it was really neutral, but said, I really hope that these leaders can find a way to work this out, and hope that we can all find peace, stuff like that. And of course, you put something on Twitter and you got a huge following, you're gonna get the sniveling rats piling on you and taking their side and saying that how insensitive you are about their side than the other ones. She got completely attacked on that. So even, of course, on Twitter, I don't know why people are still really on Twitter, because you're asking for this punishment by very immature people.
That's really interesting. You bring up Twitter too, because if you take a look at what's going on over there in Israel, you've got the Palestinian Authority. President Abbas is there. He represents the political party called Fatah. Fatah they have just declared a holy war against Israel. And he is actually supposed to be in an election right now. There's an election that's coming, and the polls are showing that Abbas is going to get really beaten badly in this election. Really, this whole thing has everything to do with that election. And the leader of the party of Hamas is actually supposed to be able to beat Abbas. Well, anyway, the Fatah started putting stuff on the internet, on their Facebook page, actually, about Jewish people and about Jerusalem, and how the Jewish nation was trying to take over Jerusalem because the Palestinians and the Israelis share the holy city. And really created this whole thing to whip up people into a frenzy on Jerusalem Day. And this is where it all started. Jerusalem Day is the celebration of the Israeli victory during the 6-day war, where they took over Jerusalem. And they were celebrating that when a large Arab party at the Temple Mount started throwing stones at the crowd, and the police ended up getting involved and putting this riot down, which led to, later on that day, rockets being fired into Israel. And then, of course, the counterattack, which is still going on today. This is how this whole thing started. And what's happening now is Abbas is saying there will be no elections until we win Jerusalem. Well, there's nothing to win. They share Jerusalem.
Right.
And so he's now putting off the democratic process, the so-called democratic process in the Palestinian Authority, so that he can hold on to power. And of course, it's very popular to attack Israel in the Palestinian Authority. So he figures this is how he's going to win. Unfortunately, people are dying as a result here.
Yeah.
And there's a whole ricochet event that's happening. It's really interesting how the Middle East is blowing up on fire right now in such a short time since the transition here in America.
Right. Well, we're not going to cure that problem. It's
No.
They haven't cured it in thousands of years. So I wanted to tell you about switching gears here. I found this very interesting. Quote, "The GOP is broken. It's time for resistance." More than 100 Republicans led by anonymous, in quotes, Trump critic signing a signed letter threatening to form a third party unless it breaks with the former president. So more than 100 Republicans will sign a letter on Thursday declaring that if the Republican Party does not break with former president, you know his name, and change, of course, they will back the creation of a third party. Quote, "I'm one of those in the group that feels very strongly that if we can't get the GOP to break to a rational party that supports free minds, free markets, and free people, I'm out. And a lot of people are coming with me," says Miles Taylor, former government official in the George W. Bush and Trump administrations. So anyways, this is what I've been talking about, hope. I hope that this happens. I've been hoping this for quite some time. And then, because I would certainly think that a lot of moderate Democrats would just completely wholeheartedly jump ship into this moderate party. I don't like the divisions, the Democrats, which is what they're speaking to. And I'm sorry, I meant the Republicans. I don't like the division the Republicans themselves have created within the party by this frantic allegiance to Trump, where I think it's just a complete opposite reaction to the Trump hate on the left. And so I think it's it's divided. I think this insanity with the obsession of Trump has divided the left amongst itself and created radicals on the far left, and has done the same on the right. I think we're well overdue for a moderate party. And I like what he said, a rational party that supports free minds, free markets, and free people. I'm all in. I'm all in. And I hope that Dan Crenshaw rises to the top of that.
I really love Dan Crenshaw. I think that guy could be a president one day.
Sure.
It's just he's got a very logical mind. I think that that the Republican Party supports those three pillars: free markets, free mind. There was another one there, I forgot.
Free people.
Free people. That's always what the Republican Party has stood for. So I don't think we need to create a new party in order to make that happen. However, I do think that the mistake that the Republican Party is making the policies of those three pillars synonymous with Donald Trump.
I do too.
That's a problem. And that's a good point that you're making, because, Donald Trump the name now has become a trigger word. And we can't seem to move forward. However, I do believe that the enemy was never Donald Trump. That's just the whole Trump derangement syndrome. Nobody had Trump derangement syndrome before he started running for office. So it's really the policies that were cleverly attacked and encapsulated into Trump's name, so that anybody that beholds the policies of those three pillars can be attacked because it's Trumpian thinking. And so I think that's the real danger, that the Republicans, you form a new party and you're beholden to the same ideals that Trump was standing for. I don't know how good that's going to work. I think they're going to have to come up with some type of here's what I see the Republicans.
I think it could work great.
I think that all they have to do is attach Trump's name to those policies that they have, and they're done. I just think that if you can do that, and that's what they've done to the Republican Party, because if you really look at the Republican Party, Barry, they did not want Trump to be the president. They were trying to, and when he first became the president, they were doing everything they could to have him get the heck out of there. In fact, it seemed to me like they weren't really minding that he was going to be impeached. So it's really, I think really that the Republicans, if they're going to really attack these principles that you're talking about, they've got to do a better job of educating the general public on why these policies that they stand for are so important. They do a terrible job. The Democrats do a great job of getting the message out there and why we should support one issue over another. The Republicans are always playing defense on that. That's how I see it.
True.
They're doing a terrible job of it. They're a mess in that area.
That's a great point, but mainstream media is at 95% Democrat.
That's right.
So there's that.
That's a big. Therein lies the problem.
Yeah, that is the biggest problem. So
right.
I think that the shift is happening as we talk about mainstream media is going down the tubes and they're clawing they're trying to talk about Trump more than ever right now because that's the only thing that gets the ratings back up.
The ratings are tanked. Exactly.
Yeah. So, we're using these different mediums now, like podcasts. And I hope that, everybody's still like clinging to this Twitter thing, which is nothing but gasoline on a fire,
Well, and here's Twitter, censoring the president of the United States. Yeah. And here you've got all these people in Iran that are saying all these terrible, hateful things about Jews and killing and all that. And none of those people are being censored at all. All this hate speech that's happening. We've talked about this a whole bunch, but how out of control is this where you've got big tech completely in control of what information gets out there. I saw this, I saw a Seinfeld episode. I love that show. And Newman, the mailman.
Yeah.
He was asking, well, why did you always want to be a mailman? He said, that's what he always wanted to be, as a mailman. Why? Because you control information.
Oh,
they control information. You control power. And
they didn't realize. They thought they were being funny.
It's so true. They knew that was the truth.
Well, I don't know, because Google wasn't even a thing back then when that was written. Google had a theory that controlling the information would be the most, powerful and lucrative thing in the world. They weren't even sure how to do it at the time.
Well, think about it. Seinfeld is a Jewish show. And the history there is you look at Nazi Germany, and they were able to control information and therefore almost put away the entire Jewish race. So they knew this, and that's because they experienced this. But it's just controlling information has nothing to do really with computers. It's just another vehicle to control information.
No, it's true, and we learned that as kids in history class, that controlling information, propaganda. That is the beginning of the demise. Yeah,
and look at what's happened. I mean, when we see these things happening with big tech, this should be the ginormous red flag for all of us to see that, we need to all link up and rail against this. And that's really, I believe, we can't depend on the government to protect us on this. I mean, we are the government. We need more grassroots organizations that are linking up together to stop what's happening with these cyber attacks and with the invasion of our privacy. That's just willy-nilly that's happening. It's really crazy. But, I did find out, Barry, that there are several bills out there in various states that have decided on a standard for cyber protection, and it's rooted in the Center for Internet Security and also the National Institute for Scales and Technology. They have some foundational ideas. If you go to either one of their websites, they have some free foundational coaching that really they've put together a whole framework for cybersecurity and how the states are incenting their businesses in their states is they're creating what they call a safe harbor for businesses for if they were to ascend to these standards, then if there is a breach and they're sued, that the liability would be limited. And therefore, what it does is, I thought about this, well, then does that somehow negate the people's protection? No, what it does is it raises the standard for your protection, and it incents that company financially. But what they're saying is that this should eliminate about 87% of these ransomware attacks that are happening out there. So there's hope out there.
Oh yeah, I forgot that we were going to talk about that a bit. Yeah, so it sounds like they immediately caved to the whole ransomware demands.
They did.
And I do understand that our economy was at risk here. And my guess is the Biden administration was in cahoots with that too, meaning caving to the demands, but they wouldn't want to admit that. That's my
very
guess.
little that they could do. Once a ransomware, the way ransomware happens is once they got you, they have your data, and this is all of your intellectual property, and that once they have that data, they basically, I mean, they're holding you hostage, and what they've threatened is they'll put that IP on the dark web. And once it's on the dark web, what happens on the dark web, and there's many nation states that have players that'll steal that information, build whatever it is that you're building, and then compete against you and ruin your company. And this happens all the time. And so they give you a very limited amount of time. So there's really very little the FBI can do. There's except for pay the ransom. And if you look at, I think they paid $5 million.
I heard that 4 to 5 million, and I was like, did they say 4 to 5 million or 45 million?
No, it was like $5 million. I mean, it's a drop in the bucket compared to the damage this whole thing was doing.
But what's to stop them from just doing it again?
Nothing. That's the thing. Nothing. And if you take a look at this infrastructure bill that's out there on the floor right now, which is worth over $2 trillion, there's really nothing in there that would prevent. This is infrastructure. I mean, come on, a gas line that goes from Texas to New Jersey, that's the epitome of infrastructure.
Yes.
And the government, the federal government, is in charge of infrastructure. The interesting thing that happened when this first happened, this happened on Friday, the last time we did our show, our federal government stepped back and said, this is a private company. It's a private matter. We're going to let them handle this. Okay, well, it is a private company. That's true. However, the federal government has a big role in the very center of this. First off, it's interstate commerce. So we went through the Constitution, right? Interstate commerce is the responsibility of Congress, federal government. Also, you've got infrastructure. That's infrastructure. That's why you have the $2 trillion bill. That's what infrastructure is supposed to be all about. And then thirdly, this was an attack. A cyber attack is
it's an act of war.
This is an act of war.
Yeah.
You as the federal government are supposed to be in charge of protecting our borders. Well, obviously none of those things. What is this? What's up with the lackadaisical attitude by our leaders in our federal government?
Know. This is what bothers me about that is the terminology is not even there correctly yet. For one, when we talk about infrastructure, we had better talk about the virtual electronic infrastructure as well, because as we just saw with this cyber attack and many others, our entire livelihood is at risk. So then you talk about, securing our borders again. Well, we better talk about our virtual electronic borders as well, because those once again just got steamrolled. So
it's the same thing.
I am what you said about the lackadaisical attitude. Yeah, we're not even using the correct terminology here.
No,
yeah,
you're exactly right.
And, I mean, this has to be taken extremely seriously.
These are things that I was concerned about before Biden came into office, just because of all of the things that I've seen. And it seems to me that all of the concerns that I had are on full display right now, all of the vulnerabilities and weaknesses of this administration. And I'm wondering, the folks that supported Biden, how do they feel right now? Do they feel like everything is going as planned, or are they?
Yeah, doesn't he have like a 67% approval rating? They don't know what the hell's going on.
That.
If you watch the mainstream media, you think everything's great.
I'm surprised and at the same time not surprised.
There you go. Right.
That's really, really something.
But I just think, Merle, I say it again, that I think the people that have the biggest influence in this country, meaning, adults that really pay attention to what's going on, that they're growing. The intelligence amongst this group of people is growing and turning away from mainstream media, realizing what is going on and seeking
that way.
Because like I said a few minutes back about Twitter and these short little bites, how is that going to produce anything but animosity when you can only, and there's this thirst for that nobody expected for long form media, such as podcasts, people listening to 1, 2, 3 hour deep dive with experts and getting to know the realities of issues behind the scenes in a very deep and comprehensive way. There's a thirst for it.
You're making a good point.
That's promising.
Sure. Yep. I totally agree that is promising. And I just want it to hurry up. I want the effects of that to hurry up, because we absolutely need an educated citizenry here in the United States to be able to get going here. Boy, I turned on I wanted to look at a video.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sorry,
I got a good one for you. I got a good guy video. And then I have a good woman article to share with you. So something from a guy perspective, something from a woman's perspective, which is going to be different for us because we're a couple of dopes here. But I think that you guys will like. I think, Merle, you'll like this when you see this article.
Okay, great. Well, the one I was going to bring up here is I was trying to pull the article up and some video came up and it was overpowering in my ears. I was so distracted. Anyway, but I saw this and my heart just went out. Is pets adopted during the pandemic are being returned at record numbers.
No.
So the whole article is about how we're going back to work now and people are realizing that they can't actually go to work and take care of the pet at the same time. So
heartless.
Just know that these shelters and everything, if you're looking for a pet right now, that's a good place to go. These rescue shelters, because a lot of these little guys had a home and now suddenly they're finding themselves all alone again. And I think that's a really sad thing.
It's a horribly sad thing. It breaks my heart. It amazes me that people can be that heartless. How do you have a pet for a year and then just say, I'm done with them?
It's selfishness, I mean, it really is selfishness. I was reading in the article, there was a guy in there that was talking about this, and he was saying, he was a single guy. He is a single guy. And all during the pandemic, he said he'd see these people walking their dogs outside. And he knew that one day he was going to go back to work. He was so lonely. He wanted that pet so badly. And now that this has happened, he's like, look, this is why I have the discipline to stay. I couldn't do that because he works all the time. He's got to be away for 13, 14 hours a day. And so, I mean, it's too bad that more people didn't think like that, because boy, these poor little animals. I just love animals. Dogs, cats, goats, whatever they are. I just want them to be okay.
Right. No, I'm right there with you. That's very disheartening. Do you want to see a cool video with jetpacks?
Yeah. What? With what? Did you just say that?
Jetpacks.
jetpacks.
Oh, this is so cool. This is, oh yeah. Well, they have been around a long time. If you really think about it, you remember on Lost in Space back in the late 60s, early 70s or whatever. And they once in a while showed that jetpack and you would see.
The one where they're upright and they're well,
they're not that different 50 years later, but watch this video. Of course, we don't have sound and let's try to describe a bit. This is what is this? A Navy training exercise, I believe. And the makers of these, if you want to call them jetpacks, they call it jet suits, is a company called Gravity. And this is a video of theirs on YouTube. And I'll share the link.
So we're out at sea here.
And we got these lifeboats. And check this out.
Whoa. Okay, now there are guys just flying around above the water. I mean, what?
Big time.
So they're like 20 feet above the water, just
and they're very agile.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. It's
Look
like,
at this.
Holy what?
Yes.
Okay, I can't even describe. That guy just lifted off from a boat and now he's flying around like
from
Peter
those
Pan.
little boats. What do you call those little boats?
I don't know what those are, but this is reminding me of Peter Pan right now.
Do you see how easily and gracefully he landed?
He just landed like a bird right there.
So the training exercise is to infiltrate an enemy ship. So they're on these small, like pontoon boats, if that's the right term. And the guys with jetpacks are flying off, and it's supposed to be a covert thing. So the guys on jetpacks fly onto the ship. And once they land, they then release these ladders. So all the other Army guys, Navy guys, can scale the ship. But the agility, look at these guys. Now this guy's leaving the ship, going back to the pontoon boat, if that's what it's called, and landing on it gracefully and gently. And it's like really wild. I'd say the thing that they got to work out yet is the big cuffs that they have on their hands. So now we're seeing them go back to the boat again. Right. So if there were enemy there with a gun, he's done, man. It's like shooting clay pigeons, because there's no way he can defend himself with those big clubs on his hand, which gives him the agility to
I see what you're saying. Right.
But my God, does that look fun? I could see
it does look like fun, but I would join the
Navy to do that.
Okay, see, this is why I wouldn't join the Navy, because my enemy might have something similar. And I can't imagine how terrifying it would be for some guy several guys to fly up in the night onto your ship like that.
Yes, look at that. Did you see that guy just take off like Superman?
That would
look at him. Look at him.
Terrifying.
That would be so fun.
A bunch of guys like that storming onto flying onto your boat. I mean, that's I've always thought this, Barry, that being in the Navy, I don't know if you're on that big ship, right? I mean, you're in the middle of the ocean.
Watch this. Watch all these guys.
These guys can shoot you down, and what are you going to do? You're going to drown. You're
you're right. That's like I could never do the submarine thing.
Oh, that would be the worst.
Not even for a day.
I think I told you about my submarine experience.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
And how tiny those things are.
Oh, I was like It was like I was baby Huey inside of this thing. It was terrible.
Right. Hey, okay. What do you say we end on this note, which I found really insightful. So from a woman's point of view,
okay.
The headline is, in quotes, "Why are you so hateful to yourself?" Woman's Facebook post hits home for many. So Mary Catherine is a wife, mother, and author who wrote a Facebook post that's hitting home for a lot of people. Pardon me. After a recent visit to her therapist, he said something to her that made her break down in tears. Why are you so hateful to yourself? And so she made this post, and then she says, I met a girl at a party last weekend. Funniest girl I ever met. So I tried to be hilarious too, and it made me feel so tired. I saw a mom at my son's school yesterday. She packed her kids' healthy lunches, and they actually freaking ate them. So that's kind of funny. So last night I tried to force feed my kids carrots and meatloaf, and they cried. So that made me feel like a failure. There's a girl I follow on Instagram. I've known her for years, and she's lost over 60 pounds and jumps up and down in her bikini without feeling mortified. That's basically a superpower in my mind, because when I sit down in the shower, my stomach rolls all over on top of itself, and I feel like the Michelin tire man. I want my curvy body to just disappear.
Mm-hmm.
The mean things, this got me. The mean things I say to myself make me feel disgusting. I have a friend who makes viral videos. I love making videos, but they don't have as much success. Sometimes I wonder if what I publish is embarrassing and stupid. That shame makes me want to stop creating. Unsurprisingly, I go to therapy a lot, partly because I'm a hot mess and partly because I love to talk. And it's really nice to have this person who's basically a paid hostage listen for an entire hour without actually acting bored. Usually my therapist nods his head and says, and asks me probing questions. But this week, my therapist sat back quietly until the hour was done. I told him about my lunchbox anxiety and Michelin tire fat rolls and my stupid videos. When I was done, he leaned forward and he raised an eyebrow. Quote, "You're such a kind person, MK. You seem to really love your friends and believe in what they do. You celebrate their joy." I puffed up a little bit. It was nice to hear someone see goodness in you. But he continued, "So why are you so hateful to yourself?" "Oh, hell," I muttered before folding into sobs. He isn't wrong. I'm my own bully. The things I say to myself are just awful. I don't allow myself to feel joy. But why? I once heard Brené Brown, I think that's a typo there because I know who that is. I once heard Brené Brown asked a room full of moms what they should be thinking as their daughter walked out of the door and on their prom date. What would our minds what should be on our minds as the two strolled hand in hand down the sidewalk to the car? Car crash, we all responded in unison. Death. A little creepy, I admit, but maybe just a little relatable. Turns out joy is a scary feeling. This is good, Merle. This is where she ties it together and makes a good point that I think that we should talk about. Actually, I think she does a good job on her own. Turns out joy is a scary feeling. When we find ourselves in a moment so happy and beautiful, the only thing our brains know how to do is prepare us for the crash landing. What could go wrong? How could we mess this up? What's the worst possible outcome to this wonderful scenario? We celebrate our friends so easily because their joy isn't a risk to us. It isn't scary, but we talk down to ourselves because our joy is downright terrifying. This is really, it rings true more today than ever, I think. And those are my words. So back to this. I mean, what would happen if we believed we were beautiful? What would happen if we celebrated our own talents? If we loved our own bodies and our own minds? If we allowed ourselves to fly? Well, sometimes things that fly fall down, and that hurts like hell. So I guess that's what could happen. Maybe that's why, instead of letting ourselves take that risk to be joyful, we say, nope, you stay put right there where it's miserably safe. If you already believe that you're a failure, then failure doesn't hurt. Now, does it? The fear of failure is what she's talking about. And she's talking about it very eloquently in words better than I could do. And that's my words again. Let's get back to her. It's almost done here. I love therapy this week, and I did something amazing. I challenge you to do the same. I made a new friend. Shit. I can't read the rest of this. It just chokes me up too much. Can you read it?
Her name is Mary Catherine, and she's pretty freaking cool. She's got a beautiful smile and an understated wit. Her jokes are awkward, but that is kind of endearing. She's a precious person, and if I must say so, I'm learning to like her a little bit. Maybe one day she'll feel loved. Oh, Barry, that's awesome. I love that. You know, I'm glad that she had that turnaround, because it does seem to me, and especially for women, it seems like there's a very, very serious, concentrated attack on women and their value in the world. they're and they it seems like the world is trying to tell them that they have to be all of these things, and if they're not, then their worth isn't there. And and it seems like the world is programming women to be so concerned about what everybody else is thinking, and it's sapping the joy out of life for them. And I don't know. I'm so glad that there was somebody there that could help this person.
Well, she got
that
therapy.
they're actually a lovely person,
and that's the power of therapy. And we've demonized. I don't want to say demonized. It's not quite the right word. What's the word where we've made it such a seemingly a thing of weakness? But we've gotten a little less so, because our parents' generation, oh my God, what's the word? It's not really demified, but it's a sign of weakness. That's how we thought of it. So more and more people are doing that. And the interconnectedness of us, like with this podcast, to share these kinds of things in more long form is so important, rather than those short, snippy bites that you get on Twitter and Facebook. You know, the social media stuff. So
it was interesting what she was talking about when she was the fear of joy, and that when you have this joy, instantly, like, the worst case scenario comes into your head. I was talking to somebody a while back, and she was saying to me, don't you, whenever you come into a room, don't you always think about all the risks that could happen, and like how you would deal with them? And I said, no, I don't think that way at all. And I think that's, there's just like a tale of two cities. Whenever I walk into the room, I'm thinking about really just the opposite, all the potentially good things that could come out. So, and maybe that's how I programmed myself to think, because of all of you go through these trials and tribulations, and you're going to in life, and you start to come out of it with a learned experiences. Her learned experience was, if I keep setting my hopes up so high, I'm just going to be disappointed. And mine has been, if I just focus on the right things, eventually all things are going to work out the way that I can see them. And I always have a picture of that thing in my head. I could see it in my head, how it's going to work out. And but people need help, and especially now,
we need each other.
They've been isolated. You're right. We've been islands out there. We need to pull together, and our strength isn't as islands. I always like that analogy of those animal documentaries where the herd, you got the herd of wildebeest, and that one, he's not hanging out with the crowd. Well, the hyenas eat that one. That's lunch. That's called lunch.
I would like to wrap that up with saying, I think what she illustrates very well too is what media today, meaning social media, regular media, traditional media, has done to us. And we see other people as not having these faults and being so much better than us. And it's kind of natural that it has worked out that way. So we have to realize that and get on the other side of it, and take that kind of media in smaller doses. And find good people to be around and be around them. Oh, and I just want to say, Merle, so like doing the volunteer stuff with the Nature Center has turned out to be a bigger blessing than I ever thought during this time.
I'm so glad.
I'm around the best of the best people.
Yep.
A nature center, volunteers. Yep. Oh my God, these people, like, I like
that's so great.
What you're vibrating at attracts more of that. And when you're around these people that are vibrating, there's no judgment. There's just goodness. The hearts are all open, and that you get to come home with that.
Well, it's really cool, Barry, because I remember when you were first looking to get involved in this, you were looking for something that you could be passionate about. Yes. And then so you get involved in something that you're passionate about, and then there's other people that are going to be there. Well, naturally, you're going to find something in common with those people. And this is why you got to break out of that bubble and get into those things that just follow your passion. That's following your heart, follow your gut. That's they're all the same thing. And if you do that, I don't think I've ever gone wrong doing that, Barry.
No, you're right. You can course correct along the way when you hit a bump. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Hey, with that, let's wind this up. We'll go into the after show for those of you that are interested. You'll find that if you subscribe at Over 50 Starting Over, that after show, and all these other links will be right there in your email box as it happens. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks for being with us. See you, Merle.
Yep.